Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us for our very first 65 questions, and congratulations on your ASUCI president win.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What was your first thought when you received the news you were elected?
This is not real.
Who's the first person you told the news to?
My friend who helped me put together a lot of my campaign items.
What most inspired you to run for ASUCI president?
It was definitely being in the different orgs on campus and listening to the student stories and hoping that I can make a change as the president.
What kind of leader do you want your peers to see you as?
Somebody who they can respect and depend on.
Since UCI students are projected to have a hybrid return back to campus this fall quarter, how do you plan to foster a sense of community within the student population?
Yeah, so I've been working with my directors and making them know that one of the first things to do is definitely reaching out to the student communities and student orgs and listening to what they would like us to do for them so we can make sure that they're still going to be interested in the different events and programmings that we're putting on.
What's a welcome message you would like to say to incoming first-year students and returning students?
Your anteater isn't up here, it's down here.
What did you learn most about yourself during the pandemic?
That I am secretly introverted.
Any pandemic hobbies?
Definitely trying new recipes and messing up on a lot of them.
If you could turn back time to a year ago, what would you have done differently?
Differently? I actually wouldn't change anything.
Last year, the ASUCI 2021 spring election received the lowest turnout in UCI's online voting history. How do you plan on increasing voter turnout in future ASUCI elections?
Yeah, so we'll be working with the elections officer as well as the external vice president's office to make sure that we're marketing and boothing on campus so students know that there is a ASUCI election in the spring rather than starting the whole marketing information at the end of winter.
Since March 2020, all UCI students, faculty, and staff have had to endure remote learning. How do you plan to achieve your goal of providing mental health resources to students this upcoming year?
Yeah, so I've already been talking to my mental health commissioners. We're going to be specifically targeting different challenges that students have faced in the online situation, as well as working with the academic affairs office to make sure that we're reaching out to faculty and hoping to get mental health resources on the syllabi for students.
I heard that you'll be studying abroad this fall quarter. That's so exciting. Where will you be studying?
I'll be studying abroad in South Korea.
What about South Korea interested you in studying there?
Definitely the food and the culture and all the different places I can go.
What's one K-drama you recommend everyone must watch at least once in their life?
Startup.
What's a K-pop song that makes you happy?
I recommend 2PM's The Cafe.
How do you plan on fulfilling your personal presidential duties while studying in a different country?
Yeah, so I've been working with my staff as well as the pro staff and other execs to come up with a points of contact list so people know who to contact in case that I'm not present at the moment, as well as working with my choosing staff and hoping that they can get a camera and making sure that I'm on a Zoom whenever there's an event on campus so people still see me even if I'm not physically there.
And this isn't your first time traveling abroad. You were an exchange student in Japan. What's your favorite part of Japanese culture?
So growing up, I was really close to my two best friends who were Japanese. I definitely felt their kindness and as well as their families. So I really appreciated that when I was growing up.
What's one phrase you can say in Japanese?
Onegaishimasu.
How about a phrase in Taiwanese?
My grandma tends to say Japun, which means it's time to eat to me.
What would you say is your proudest moment as a Taiwanese American?
I think it's definitely doing my research study on first generation Taiwanese American identity formation and listening to the stories of the participants and kind of learning from them and feeling more connected to my roots as well.
You just mentioned your research. What's one piece of information that has led you to understand the connections between Taiwanese identity, self-esteem, and behavior based on that research?
Definitely, identity isn't one-dimensional, and it can be influenced by a lot of different factors. Even if you have something like a monogamous name for everyone, it doesn't mean that you're going to fit directly into that box. So it's really like a personality kind of thing. It's who you make yourself out to be.
You also conduct research about Black-focused curriculum with the Center for Racial Justice in Education. What is something that you've learned about the Black community that you didn't know before your involvement as a research intern?
I think there's definitely a lot that I didn't know since I'm not part of the community. So something that really stood out to me and touched me was one of the participants. She mentioned that Black women aren't uplifted by the patriarchy, and they're not uplifted by like white supremacy either. So it's been like a really big struggle for her to kind of feel connected to her like Black culture and roots, and it's something that I'm hoping that our office can keep in mind and be cognizant about when we're planning different events for people in the Black community too.
How does it feel to be this year's recipient of the Black Lives Matter Research Award?
I'm very thankful for that.
And your platform during the election emphasized actionable racial justice as opposed to simply denouncing racism. With this in mind, what are your thoughts on UCI's response to the news that UCI student Gentry McPherson ran over a Black Lives Matter protester with a Jeep?
UCI could definitely do more. ASUCI can definitely do more too. And we're currently working on a list of commitments that the Office of the President is going to make sure that we're supporting the Black students on campus.
On top of your numerous involvements on campus as a student leader and researcher, you're a social policy and public service and education sciences double major and a management and political sciences double minor. That was a lot just for me to say. What keeps you organized enough to handle all the different responsibilities that you have?
Google Calendar.
What's an organization on campus you wish you had the opportunity to join but never had time to?
The President in Education Project.
What inspired you to pursue the social policy and public service major with an emphasis in governments?
My high school AP Gov class, we watched this show for summer homework. It was The West Wing, and that made me interested in wanting to run for higher office, which led me to this major.
You've stated that you believe we have a responsibility as citizens and members of a community to hold leaders accountable for their flaws. How do you hope your ASUCI team and the UCI student body will keep you accountable throughout this year?
Yeah, so we're currently developing some different forms and evaluations so that within our office, the staff can make sure that they're giving us input on what they like to see, what they want us to change, what they want me to improve on, as well as working with the other executives to make sure that we're putting together a form that all students on campus can submit anonymously and to kind of talk about any concerns they have or any things that they would like us to do for them.
And you were an intern for Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris. Is there a particular moment during your internship that has impacted how you lead as a student leader today?
Definitely seeing how she brought in her humor and personality into the job definitely changed my beliefs about how women in leadership positions should act. So I definitely am going to be taking that into consideration.
Why did you choose to attend UCI?
One of my high school teachers, Mr. Summers, he told me that UCI has one of the campuses with the most people smiling all the time.
Speaking of smiles, what's one random act of kindness that you've seen on campus?
I've seen people offer to take lost families and their kids and walk them directly to where they need to go.
If you could tell your first year self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't worry, because everything's gonna be okay.
As a member of the campus-wide honors collegium, what would you say is the most difficult lesson you had to learn in the program?
The 6-unit classes will definitely make you take extra time to schedule the rest of your course load.
You've said that one of your favorite classes at UCI is Social Science 181A, Ethical Leadership. How will you transfer your knowledge about being an ethical leader to your position as ASUCI president?
Interestingly, that class focused more on characteristics of bad leaders. So I'll be taking into consideration what is a bad leader and making sure that I'm not doing those.
And what's your favorite secret study spot on the UCI campus?
It has to be that little mini outdoor terrace right outside the blood donation center.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi. Care to join us for a picnic?
Yeah.
Here's some hand sanitizers, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And also, I heard you like to have a lot of picnics during quarantine. So what would you say is your most favorite picnic food?
Personally, I think cake. I love cake.
Cake, not a bad choice. I can have cake any day, honestly. So I heard you had a Twitch stream account where you reviewed a lot of food. What would you think that truffle flavored potato chips are one of your favorites?
Yes, I would say so. From Trader Joe's.
From Trader Joe's, of course. And also, you mentioned in your LinkedIn bio that one of the favorite things you like to do is to write reviews for restaurants. So what are the 3 categories that you think is a must-have for a restaurant to get like a good review?
Food, service there, and the ambiance environment.
Ambiance. All right. Also, among a lot of the restaurants in UCI, what would you say is the most recommended?
I like this Japanese katsu place called Hako.
So also, if you could only choose one food at UCI dining and you can eat that only for the rest of your life, what would it be?
The omelets at the Ant Eatery.
Can you want to talk more about your favorite places around UCI, where you like to study and stuff like that?
Usually when I'm studying, I go to the library. Or I go to the nearby Starbucks at the Albertsons Plaza campus.
And also, if you could tell any students that you said coming to like a freshman incoming this year, what is one thing that you think they should know before they start their journey here?
Your student ID card is actually your library card. I thought you had to apply for a library card in the library.
Right.
But you don't.
Got it. All right, well, lastly, this is a very important question, and you have to be very honest. Boba, tea, or coffee?
I like Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Well, we don't have Coca-Cola, but I got you this. It's a boba.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
straight
Cheong.
from Cheong.
It's Cheong.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
While you were picnicking, I did do some digging, and I found out that your favorite UCI memory was running to Target 10 minutes before closing to buy butter with your RA. What was that butter for?
We were baking chocolate chip cookies at midnight.
You were a SPOT staffer during the Riptide year in 2019. Since SPOT welcomes incoming first year and transfer students, what would you say is the most impactful memory you have of introducing students to UCI?
Being able to stay in contact with them even after SPOT has ended.
As part of your platform, you mentioned that one of your priorities is bridging the gap of knowledge between ASUCI and UCI students. What initiatives are you seeking to implement that would make ASUCI less confusing and more accessible to students?
I'm working with the Chief and Media Tech Officer to put together a calendar of ASUCI events that students can put on their own calendars and know that they can look forward to, as well as making sure my chiefs of staff are putting together like this updated newsletter of sorts to make sure that students know that the kinds of initiatives and policies that I'm working on that they can look forward to and give their input on.
And you've proposed multiple plans to help support students experiencing food insecurity. Such plans include moving the Fresh Hub to a new location closer to the center of campus, establishing a UCI farmers market, and creating a cooking program for students to teach and learn more about food and hospitality industry. With these ideas in mind, how do you plan to advertise these initiatives so the student community will join?
We'll be using more than just Instagram. We're kind of expanding to TikTok and Twitter as well to kind of reach out to different student communities who might not just use Instagram.
Where do you see yourself after graduation?
Well, personally, right now, I'm applying to the Fulbright English teaching assistantship, and in the fall, I'll be applying to the Junior Carnegie Research Fellows.
What about Fulbright and the Carnegie Junior Fellows program compelled you to gain an interest in potentially applying?
For Fulbright, I always still kind of struggle a little bit on it since, I think it's a little problematic if we're going to foreign countries and teaching them English. That's something that I appreciated was the bicultural experience where they're not only learning from me, but I'm also learning from them. And I think that it would be valuable for me to kind of get that international experience and working with people from different cultures for my own career in the future.
Part of your after graduation plan is to apply to and attend law school. What would you advocate for as a lawyer?
I'm hoping to be a public defender, so things that I want to especially do is making sure that people who aren't able to get legal resources or understand where or what any of the legal jargon means, I'm hoping to be able to break that down and make it more accessible.
In an interview with the School of Social Sciences, you stated that you hope to be elected for President of the United States one day. What would be your campaign slogan?
The only way.
You mentioned in your ASUCI campaign statement that you'll strive to be a voice to the underrepresented members of society. As a hopeful President of the United States, what law would you pass to increase equity for underrepresented people?
Being an education major, I think it would be really important to kind of consider the education of students. So definitely making sure that our teaching pedagogies are culturally sustaining and also relevant to the different communities on campus.
Can you name a person who inspires you?
Richard Steffen.
As a female leader, what is the most significant obstacle you've experienced?
People telling me things that I already know.
Another part of your research that you're interested in is studying the impact of female academic role models on female PhD students. Is there a specific UCI professor that has impacted your time here as a student?
Dr. Wu, Dr. Castellanos, and Dr. Hart.
And as a fellow ENFP, how would you describe this Myers-Briggs personality trait with one word?
Crazy.
And you have a lot of volunteer experience, such as being an Anteater Pledge Ambassador and being part of the Dean's Ambassador Council. What is the most rewarding part of volunteering aside from mentoring students?
Knowing that I'm able to change at least one person's, make an impact on at least one more person.
And you'll be introducing the Truth and Reconciliation Commission this year to address unique BIPOC challenges. To be better allies to the BIPOC community, as well as to LGBTQIA+ community, students with disabilities, and women, what resources on campus do you encourage students to check out?
Definitely the counseling center. They have some really good counselors there that I myself have also visited.
As a part of the Asian American community, what would you like to express to the Asian American community at UCI who may have experienced COVID-19 related racism during this past year?
I think given the nature of some Asian American families, oftentimes like your feelings might be brushed off. So definitely knowing that you have a whole campus of students who are not only your academic supporters, but also people that you can talk to and reach out to. We're all here for you.
How has interning at the Orange County Asian Pacific Islander Community Alliance shaped you as an Asian American?
It's definitely giving me a lot more resources and also people I know that I can reach out to and look up to.
You mentioned in your ASUCI campaign statement that you would try to defund UCI PD and redistribute these funds to the Women's Hub, Dream Center, UCI Center for Black Cultures, and many more resources on campus. How do you hope to promote an inclusive and safe environment for all UCI students, regardless of their stance on this matter?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it's definitely understanding where people are coming from. There are a lot of different opposing ideas, but regardless of where people are standing on the issue, it's definitely making sure that they know that they can come to ASUCI with any concerns or issues, and that we'll definitely take into consideration everything that students are kind of thinking about.
And you were interested in offering a learning life skills resource to students. What's a life skill you wish you learned in your classes?
How to do my taxes?
You were also interested in introducing a micro-internship, in which students get the opportunity to be involved with short-term internships. For students who haven't had the opportunity to intern yet, what's one piece of advice you can offer them when applying for internships?
Be proactive in your internship and check in to see what your supervisor would like you to do, rather than wait for them to tell you what to do.
And for my last question, if you could express one sentiment to yourself, a year in the past and a year in the future, what would it be?
Year in the past, you're doing good so far. Don't worry. Don't be sad. And in the future, I hope you won the lottery.
Congratulations again on your victory, Michelle, and thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having me.